Hi everyone, my name is Samantha Bradshaw. I'm a researcher on the Computational Propaganda Project at Oxford University, where I'm also completing my PhD. And it's really great to be speaking with you via video to represent the project and share some of the work that we're doing on democracy and social media. As these are really important questions that are affecting societies around the world right now. So I've been asked to talk to you guys briefly about net neutrality and the implications for democracy. So I hope that these remarks are helpful for your afternoon session. So when we use the internet, we have certain expectations of what this experience online is going to be like. We expect to be able to access certain kinds of websites whenever we want, and we expect that our internet service providers and our mobile phone companies aren't going to block access to certain websites or speed up or slow down the delivery of that content through the network. And this is essentially the principle of net neutrality, that all data should be treated as neutral. It shouldn't be discriminated against depending on who created it, the website, the platform, or the mode of communication, but that all data is essentially neutral and all data is essentially equal. And so the key questions around net neutrality generally have to do with whether or not my internet experience is going to be the same as your internet experience, or are internet service providers blocking and discriminating access to certain kinds of content over others. Now, in the United States, there are some really big debates going on surrounding net neutrality and whether or not some content should be put into these internet fast lanes. If, big content providers want to pay a premium, then they can have their content delivered to users much more quickly. These kinds of movements have received a lot of criticism, particularly around competition and innovation. But today, I really want to focus on mobile and the way that mobile devices are creating challenges for net neutrality and ultimately democracy. So around the world, most people are using mobile devices to connect to the internet instead of, traditional computers or laptops. Most people are turning to mobile phones to stay in contact with their friends and family, to find information online, partially because mobile phones are a lot cheaper than a big computer, big laptop, so it's much more affordable to connect to the internet this way. And the majority of the growth that we've seen in internet use over the past 5 years have come from people connecting via mobile devices. In the Philippines, there are actually more mobile subscriptions than there are people, and about 80% of these mobile subscriptions have data that people are then using to connect to the internet. Now, normally when we access information online through our mobile devices, we have to pay for some kind of data plan. And this data plan is metered, which means that every time I download an image or load a website, that consumes data, and I'm going to pay for the amount of data that I use. So every time a picture loads, that might be a couple of megabytes that I then therefore pay for, and that's how our subscriptions typically work. But some big companies such as Facebook, Google, and Wikipedia have launched these initiatives called zero rating, where if users access content through those platforms, they don't have to pay the metered connection that you would normally have to pay to access that information. And so that's helped really expand internet access for a number of people who might not be able to afford mobile data, especially because these plans can be really pricey, especially in parts of the world where there might not be a lot of good infrastructure. Connecting to the internet can cost a lot of money, and salaries might not also be that high. So being able to access something for free has really expanded the opportunity to find information, to connect on social media with your friends and your family, and to use some of these basic internet functions that we've all generally benefited from over the past 10, 15 years. But it also causes a number of problems, especially around net neutrality, because now some data from Facebook and from Google or from Wikipedia are being prioritized over others. And there's now an unequal distribution of information depending on how much money you have. So someone that is able to afford to pay for premium data plans, they're going to be able to access a lot more information and different kinds of information than someone who's accessing information on a zero-rated scheme. Because these zero-rated schemes, I should note, don't give you access to the full internet. They'll often give you access to, a stripped down version of a story that has been shared on Facebook. You might not even be able to connect to the page. It might remove, so you can only read the headline. It might remove all of the images and all of the video to keep those data prices down and the megabytes down. So it's not the internet when you're accessing content through these zero-rated schemes. So as I said, this creates a number of really interesting and tough challenges around the information ecosystem and creates some asymmetries in how people are able to find new content and new information that's really important to politics. As I mentioned earlier, zero-rated schemes can create these information asymmetries where some people have access to good quality information if they're able to afford it, whereas others are only going to have access to low quality information, information that they might not be able to click through, so they might be only able to read the headlines of a story that come up in a Facebook feed. They aren't actually able to go to that website and read it and check the facts. They aren't able to watch videos. They aren't really able to load photos. All of the things that are really data intensive, they're not able to do that because they're on these free plans that really only provide you with a narrow window into what the possibilities of the internet actually are. So that information imbalance and that asymmetry can have a really negative impact on democracy, because we do know from research in the field of communications that social media is a increasingly important part of democracy, and it's an increasingly important way that people find news and information that's relevant to politics that they then use to formulate their ideas and their opinions about certain leaders, about their policies, and then they go out and engage in real world behaviors such as voting. So having access to good quality information on social media should be a level playing field for everyone, because everyone needs to make good decisions about democracy in order for democracy to be effective. So that's one of the big problems with zero-rating scheme and the way that it can impact democracy. The other really big issue that I don't think people talk about as much is that these plans really only treat people as consumers of content. But one of the greatest things about the internet is that it put the power of creating content into the hands of people. And it's because of that things like microblogging and citizen journalism have been a huge part of our internet ecosystem in a a really important part of democracy as well, because microblogging and citizen journalism and that ability to create and upload and share content with your friends, your family, with your neighbors, and with your fellow citizens is really, really important. A lot of stories that are important to society or to communities might not make it into mainstream media. And so the internet was another channel for citizens to express themselves and to get some of these things on the agenda of mainstream media. And because zero rating only allows you to access content, and access a very limited amount of content, you can do that, but it doesn't give you that ability to create content the way that we traditionally could have. And so I think that's another way that these plans have a very negative impact on democracy and on journalism in particular. So I already talked a little bit about the information asymmetries and how certain users might have access to better quality information than others. I also talked about how zero-rated schemes can remove some of that power from the user, that power to create content, to share, and to upload their own kinds of stories and be creative with information online. Instead, it just limits their experience as being only consumers of content. And together, I think that these things have a really negative impact on the citizens' ability to, be engaged and involved in politics and democracy, because now they're not able to make informed decisions the same way that someone with better access to information could, but they're also not able to share their own perspectives and their own stories the way that, again, other users with more privileged access might be able to. And so these are together really bad things for democracy. Are there any warning signs? I don't necessarily know if there are good warning signs about this. We can look at the number of people that are using zero-rated schemes to access the internet, but I really think that this problem is actually one that comes down to affordable internet access and making sure that there are good regulations in place and good infrastructure in place that encourage affordable internet access for everyone, so that no matter who you are, you can access the exact same content as anybody else connecting to the internet. You can read through that content, you can watch videos, and I think that's where the heart of this problem really, really lies, especially when it comes to zero rating schemes and connecting via mobile devices. So if governments are able to, invest in infrastructure spending that will allow the price of mobile plans to come down, if they're able to invest in schools and public libraries and places, alternative places that people could go to find and access information, those would be all really good moves that would help strengthen the quality of the information ecosphere on social media and the way that people are going to find and access content. Thank you guys very much. It was really great to record this quick little video to talk to you about some of the issues around net neutrality and democracy and journalism. And it's really great to hear that Rappler is doing such fantastic work on these issues at the intersection of social media and democracy. I know here at Oxford, we're so interested in the research and the really tough journalism that you guys are doing right now. So thank you for being really great advocates for a strong democracy in the Philippines. And we really look forward to working more with you guys in the future. Thank you so much. Salamat. Bye.